He must not have loved seeing Colin Jost come back to Saturday Night Live last night with a joke at his wife, Blake Lively's expense. The whole thing is all next level cringe, and I just can't believe it.
But Justin Baldoni saying, I'd love to work with Blake again.
Blake Lively is crazy. Why are you making fun of me? I thought you had our back, Saturday Night Live. What's going on?
Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds just broke down after an SNL host destroyed them on live TV, and millions watched them get humbled in real time. The internet wasted no time tearing them apart, and as if that wasn't enough, a fresh scandal about Ryan surfaced right after.
Ryan Reynolds is now caught talking about staring at a stranger who was feeding their baby.
Blake, in full panic mode, decided hiring an ex-CIA guy for PR was the solution. But instead of fixing things, it made everything 10 times worse.
Blake Lively is now hired, CIA alum, as her own crisis PR agent in the legal battle with Justin.
And if I said the whole fault was Ryan's, believe me, I wouldn't be making it up. Because somehow, in the middle of a $400 million lawsuit and a full-blown PR disaster, our beloved Ryan Reynolds decided the best move was to joke about it on live television.
So you have your ex-wife's husband crack this joke, the same ex-wife's husband whose show you decided to go make your first appearance on, let him write a joke for you.
Because what better way to handle career-threatening legal drama than to turn it into an SNL bit, right? He had one job: sit there, look unbothered, and pretend his life wasn't on fire. But no, Ryan had to go and say, "How's it going?" "Great." "Why? What have you heard?"
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds. Hey. How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
That right there, that was the sound of his entire PR team collectively passing out. The second those words left his mouth, you could feel the energy in the room collapse. The audience wasn't sure if they should laugh, gasp, or check if this man had lost his mind.
Or should they
Yeah.
should they go to the hospital, or should they? Are those edible?
Even Hollywood legends in the crowd visibly cringed. Spielberg, suddenly very interested in his shoes. Amy Poehler, blinking in Morse code, probably sending an SOS. And Blake, absolutely stone-faced, because she, more than anyone, knew exactly what was about to happen next.
Yeah. Okay. Well, my question is that you know this. Yeah. Okay. Well, my question.
And then, like clockwork, Colin Jost stepped in, and sadly, it is Ryan's bad luck that Colin Jost is the host of Saturday Night Live show. And no doubt Ryan had already torched his own public image by making a self-destructive joke about his ongoing legal nightmare. And Colin, spotting an opportunity too good to ignore, didn't just take the bait. He ran full speed toward it. No mercy, no hesitation.
Zelensky was asked to leave the White House. Then he appeared on Fox News and said he thinks he can still salvage his relationship with President Trump, which is like Justin Baldoni saying, I'd love to work with Blake again.
He set it up with a safe, predictable political joke about Trump and Zelensky's fractured relationship, the kind of thing late-night hosts have been recycling for years. But just when the audience relaxed, assuming they were in for another routine jab at politicians, Colin pulled the rug out from under them and dropped a bomb straight onto Blake Lively's PR disaster.
Damn! I mean, look at Colin's face! Because again, Colin is now married to Scarlett Johansson, who Ryan Reynolds allegedly, the rumors are, cheated on her with Blake Lively.
That was the moment he delivered the line that would be played back millions of times in the next 24 hours. A brutal, career-denting punchline comparing Zelensky's doomed attempts to fix things with Trump to Justin Baldoni ever wanting to work with Blake again. And just like that, Hollywood had its new viral moment.
So you have your ex-wife's husband crack this joke, the same ex-wife's husband whose show you decided to go make your first appearance on, let him write a joke for you that bombs. I mean, The whole thing is all next level.
And that's what made it so brutally effective. This wasn't some off-the-cuff, improvised remark. Colin knew exactly what he was doing. He had one shot to say what everyone in the industry had been whispering about for months, and he landed it flawlessly. This wasn't just a punchline, it was a confirmation. A confirmation that Hollywood wasn't buying Blake's carefully crafted victim narrative.
The whole thing is all next level cringe, and I just can't believe it. But I love listen to Colin crack even before he says it, because he knows this is going to get me in trouble.
Which is like Justin Baldoni saying, I'd love to work with Blake again.
Should we laugh at this, given what you did last week? Anyway, to me, this shows SNL playing its cards of, yeah, they're clearly, they know Blake Lively is crazy.
And if the humiliation wasn't bad enough, let's talk about the cherry on top. Colin Jost, the man delivering this career-cruising punchline, is Scarlett Johansson's husband, Ryan Reynolds, ex-wife's new man. The layers of irony in this situation could keep psychologists busy for years.
Are you surprised? I'm impressed. Saturday Night Live did take a swipe. And I wish they'd go a little harder, to be perfectly honest, and more honest. But it's nice to at least see them admit, yeah, no, Justin Baldoni's never working with Blake Lively again. And notice, this joke could have been the other way around. That's like Blake Lively saying, yeah, I want to work with Justin again. They chose to make the butt of the joke on her, not on him.
And after this disgrace, what can one do? Panic and make things even worse. That's exactly what happened. Blake Lively panicked. The second Colin Jost's joke went viral, and 3.5 million people watched her career get drop-kicked into oblivion. She knew things were spiraling out of control. This wasn't just bad press. This was Hollywood-wide humiliation. Industry insiders weren't even pretending to respect her anymore. The same A-listers who used to praise her in interviews were now snickering behind closed doors.
So now Blake's like, it's a win. It's a win. That's exactly what I wanted. You wanted to waste the court's time? Why? Why are you wasting the judge's time?
Twitter was relentless. The media was circling like vultures. And the worst part, this was all happening in real time. Months of painstakingly curated PR had just been wiped out in a single joke. And if she thought the situation was salvageable, she was about to prove herself very, very wrong.
The hypocrisy here is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing how she can do this, but when Justin does it, why is he hiring a PR team to defend himself?
She had two choices. Option 1, lay low, shut up, stop making it worse, let people move on to the next scandal. Maybe attempt some strategic humility, let the PR fire die down, play the long game. But no, she went with option 2, the nuclear option. She picked up the phone, made one very expensive call, and brought in Nick Shapiro.
Blake Lively is now hired, CIA alum, as her own crisis PR agent in the legal battle with Justin.
Yes, that Nick Shapiro, the ex-CIA media fixer who had spent years covering up scandals for powerful people. The same guy who had helped bury the Hunter Biden laptop story under a pile of government-backed Russian disinformation nonsense just weeks before an election.
Yeah, Blake Lively hired somebody who helped to cover up Hunter Biden's laptop. Now, this was a story even when I heard it, I fell for it.
The second his name was linked to Blake Lively, it wasn't just a PR nightmare anymore. It was a full-blown crisis, because hiring a high-level intelligence operative to manage your public image is not normal. This wasn't a Hollywood actress trying to save face. This was damage control at a government-level scale.
They absolutely covered up Hunter Biden's laptop. Now, whatever your I don't care. But the reality check is, it's now been proven, yes, that was not a Russian information operation. It wasn't.
And the irony was unbearable. Just months earlier, Blake was screaming about how Justin Baldoni's PR team was manipulating the media and twisting the truth to protect him. She painted herself as a helpless victim fighting against the Hollywood machine. But now, she wasn't just spinning the narrative. She had literally hired a man whose entire career was built on controlling reality itself.
And this guy was one of the group of 51 senior intelligence officers who signed the widely cited and subsequently criticized 2020 open letter stating that the Hunter Biden laptop has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation.
And the worst part? She really thought no one would notice. But of course, people did notice. The second it was revealed that Nick Shapiro was on her payroll, the backlash exploded.
So that is now who Blake Lively is relying on, this crisis PR person. It's nuts. It's wild.
Twitter, legal analysts, Hollywood insiders, everyone had something to say. This wasn't just another celebrity trying to clean up their reputation. This was a full-scale media manipulation campaign happening in broad daylight.
So anything Justin does is retaliation? Anytime he defends himself, it's retaliation? Nonsense. And you're telling me, Blake, you didn't leak this out to try to make it look even more nefarious then, before you had your evidence when you stole the phone?
And just like that, the media machine lurched into action. Suddenly, Deadline, Variety, and every Hollywood-friendly outlet started rolling out suspiciously glowing articles about Blake Lively. Headlines that sounded way too convenient started flooding the internet. Blake Lively scores huge legal win. Blake's lawsuit takes a major step forward as judge sides with her. Hollywood rallies behind Blake in her fight for justice. But there was one big problem. None of it was true.
Remember when we told you last week, the breaking news that Justin had a big win and Blake lost? Blake didn't get what she requests, which were completely overreaching records.
Blake hadn't won anything. In fact, her subpoenas were rejected for being legally absurd, her case was crumbling, and her entire legal strategy was falling apart faster than Ryan Reynolds' ability to read a room. The media wasn't reporting real victories, they were trying to manufacture them. The public wasn't buying it, and even worse, Hollywood wasn't either.
And the judge is like, you can't have that. And then they're like, I mean, you have to ask for it specifically on your people if you want to do it. So now Blake's like, it's a win. It's a win. That's exactly what I wanted. You wanted to waste the court's time? Why? Why are you wasting the judge's time? Tailored win so I can really get what I want, which is to talk to the people specifically. No, you didn't. You wanted to ask everybody.
Because hiring Nick Shapiro wasn't just desperate, it was reckless. This wasn't some anonymous crisis manager. This was a literal intelligence operative. A man whose entire job was to make damaging truths disappear. The moment people realized that's who Blake had turned to, it was no longer a question of bad PR. It was a question of integrity.
But the judge put you in your place. It was a loss. So now she's trying to spin it a win, but what's very telling is look who's doing it for her. Deadline PR putting out there is a win.
And Hollywood was quietly backing away. Because once an actor becomes a PR liability, the industry treats them like a contagious disease. Blake had spent years crafting the perfect image, the classy, elegant Hollywood darling.
You put this out there trying to make this a negative, and if anything, you leaking this armed all of Johnny's fans who are good at seeking the truth, who are going to really react more strongly when they see somebody else getting the same treatment Johnny did, which he did. They railroaded him, and they're still trying to rewrite history and do it.
But now, that image was dead. Producers, directors, and even her own co-stars were suddenly choosing their words very carefully. The industry had stopped defending her. She could have taken a step back, let the headlines fade, and slowly rebuilt her reputation. Instead, she doubled down.
But it's about the evidence, and Blake has provided none. No concrete evidence, just like the mountains and mountains that Elaine said during the Amber trial. No, you can't just say it happened and then we have to believe you, bro. It doesn't work. There's no trust us, bro, in this kind of situation.
And the more she tried to control the story, the more obvious it became that she was losing. Every move she made looked more desperate. Every fake legal victory only made people dig deeper into what was really happening. Every carefully planted PR article just reminded people that she was the one pulling the strings.
And this is all very ironic because Lively's team was very critical of Justin Baldoni using a crisis PR team last summer.
She had spent years convincing the world that she was different from the rest of Hollywood, that she was above the drama, above the scandals, above the pettiness. But now, she wasn't above it. She was drowning in it. And the worst part? She had no one to blame but herself.
First and foremost, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have hired former CIA agents with a proven track record of lying to the public, gaslighting the public, to help her with PR.
And if you thought maybe, just maybe, Blake had finally crumbled under the weight of her own mess, and that this was enough embarrassment for 1 month, think again. Blake Lively was already drowning in legal rejections, PR disasters, and Hollywood's cold shoulder. But then, Ryan Reynolds handed her a cement block and shoved her even deeper.
That Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have moved to hire a PR crisis manager with deep government ties. As her legal battle with Justin Baldoni escalates, she's quietly working with Nick Shapiro, the CIA's former deputy chief of staff and senior advisor to former director John Brennan.
While she was desperately trying to rewrite the SNL fallout, spin legal losses into small setbacks, and act like hiring an ex-CIA media fixer was totally normal Hollywood behavior, another scandal came crashing in. And this one had Ryan front and center, making himself look like the biggest hypocrite of the decade.
Ryan Reynolds is now caught talking about staring at a stranger who was feeding their baby. And it sounds so bad given Blake's complaint now. I can't even.
A clip resurfaced. A beautifully disastrous, career imploding clip. Ryan Reynolds, standing there, grinning like he had no sense of self-awareness whatsoever, casually recounting how he got locked in a time warp while staring at a stranger breastfeeding.
I'd probably like to go back to this morning. In the hotel lobby, a nursing mother caught me staring, and I didn't know what the appropriate facial expression was for that. So I just kept on staring and staring and staring, and then I just kind of got locked into that like a time warp.
This wasn't a joke taken out of context. This wasn't a misunderstood moment. This was him, on record, openly admitting that he just stood there, watching a woman breastfeed, completely aware of what he was doing. And instead of realizing how insanely uncomfortable that sounded, he doubled down, explaining how he just kept staring because he didn't know what to do.
That video is a response to a question a fan had asked Ryan Reynolds, asking, if you had a time machine, which historical event would you like to go back in time to witness? Members of the jury, I want to bring your attention to page 25 of 168 of the timeline of relevant events.
And sure, maybe in another timeline, this would have just been one of those weird Ryan Reynolds stories that people laugh at and forget. Except for one massive, career-destroying problem.
Blake Lively mad at James Heath for looking at her and not staring at her in the eyes, directly at her while she was blank, getting ready to feed her baby. All this is the complaint that was made, which she later says, oh, I don't think you were trying to cop a look, but whatever.
Blake Lively, his own wife, had accused James Heath of sexual harassment for allegedly making eye contact while she was pumping. Yes, the same Blake Lively who turned a man into a full-blown villain because he allegedly looked at her while she was breastfeeding.
It's insane. It's insane. But now Ryan Reynolds can go do this as the time event he wants to go back and revisit when he stared at a stranger doing the same thing.
The same Blake Lively who painted Heath's brief moment of eye contact as so inappropriate, so distressing, that she took legal action. And yet, here was Ryan, casually telling the world that he had done the exact same thing, but worse.
Present in the room are Lively's nanny, makeup artist, and assistant, while Lively is having body makeup removed. She was not topless, as she claimed in her complaint. She was either nursing or pumping while fully clothed. Lively asked Heath to face the wall while they determined a time to meet with the other producers, who were standing just outside the door.
This wasn't just bad optics. This was career-ending hypocrisy. Blake framed Heath's alleged glance as predatory.
Weeks later, on June 1st, 2023, Lively accuses Heath of making eye contact with her while she had asked him to face the wall. So, Mr. Reynolds, I would like us to go back in time, find that nursing mother breastfeeding her baby while you stood there and stared. You just didn't know what to do. I would like to get that woman some fucking compensation. It's okay when you do it. It's a problem when other people do it.
She pushed the narrative that this was a traumatic, violating experience. But Ryan, he stood there, gleefully turning his own prolonged staring session into a funny little anecdote. The contradiction wasn't just obvious. It was insulting to every single person who had believed Blake's story.
You're a grown man, you're a married man, you're a father. You've seen a woman breastfeeding before. Why were you staring at this woman? Here your wife is saying she asked somebody to look at the wall because she was pumping or nursing or whatever.
And the internet? Absolutely ruthless. The second the clip resurfaced, people lined up to call out the double standard. So it's harassment when a random guy does it, but when Ryan Reynolds does it, it's just a quirky story?
This isn't a funny joke if you find it so sensitive when it happens to your wife. It's not funny, Ryan.
But she wants to sue. Yeah, she says that's sexual harassment.
Blake took a man to court over eye contact, but Ryan can admit to standing there watching a woman breastfeed for way too long, and it's totally fine. Where's the lawsuit for Ryan? And just like that, whatever tiny shred of credibility Blake had left completely evaporated. Because this wasn't just a minor contradiction. This wasn't just a bad look. This was her entire victim narrative imploding in real time.
Pick one. Would you like this woman to come back in time and sue you now? Or is your wife being ridiculous? Tell us which one is facts. I'll wait.
This was proof that Blake Lively had no problem applying one standard to other men while completely ignoring it for her own husband. And worse, it made people question whether her accusations against Heath were exaggerated too. And Ryan, completely oblivious, just standing there, still stuck in his own joke, completely unaware that he had just handed the internet everything it needed to turn on them.
But it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's Deadpool. He's made so many offensive things. This whole thing was nuts. Nothing Blake's accusing Justin of was even that bad.
Public trust? Gone. Ryan and Blake weren't just losing Hollywood. They were losing the audience, the fans, the very people who had spent years defending them. The carefully manufactured America's Sweetheart branding Blake had built her career on, officially dead. And let me tell you one more thing. Blake Lively must have thought her co-stars would sync with her.
But this woman from Hollywood Reporter asked about Blake.
I know you're very supportive over your female co-stars as well. Yeah. Blake Lively, how are you hoping to support her during this time?
I mean, I just, it's a tough situation, and
She probably assumed loyalty would keep them tied to her public image, that the people she worked with would stick by her no matter what. But Hollywood doesn't work like that. The second a scandal gets too messy, everyone scrambles for the lifeboats.
I just hope everyone remembers what the movie's about and why we made it in the first place, and it's about love, and it's about supporting women in general, and helping people through tough times. And that movie,
which you're doing neither of which, dude. You're not helping Justin through a tough time or supporting the woman.
And that's exactly what happened. Even the people who should have been in her corner started pretending they didn't know her.
You're just like, I am not picking a side. But you did is the problem. You did pick a side. If you had said this all the way along, I would have respected you more. Like, I'm not getting involved. But you did pick a side.
Brandon Sklenar, her co-star in It Ends With Us, got put on the spot. A reporter asked him the easiest question in the world. How are you supporting Blake? A softball question. A free opportunity to say something positive, to throw out the classic Hollywood PR response. Oh, Blake is amazing, I stand by her. But instead, he gave the most painfully vague, non-committal, awkward response imaginable. It's a tough situation. That was it. That was his entire answer.
I hear we've got new gin in this movie.
Yeah, we certainly do. My Artingstall gin, exactly. It creeps up on my movies occasionally, but yeah, I was like, okay, this time it's going in. We had aviation last time, we got Artingstalls this time.
No words of support. No defense of her character. No, Blake is wonderful, and I support her 100%. Just a one-liner that made it painfully obvious. He didn't want to be anywhere near this disaster. And in Hollywood, that says everything.
This time, there won't be aviation gin. It'll be his gin. Paul Feig has his own gin, and good for him. He gets to tell Blake no and get his in instead.
This industry is built on fake enthusiasm. Even when actors secretly hate each other, they still show up, smile, and pretend to be best friends, because that's how PR works. But Brandon? He couldn't even fake it. And that alone told the entire industry what they needed to know. Because if her own co-star, the guy who just worked with her, wasn't willing to publicly stand by her, what did that say about how people really saw her behind the scenes?
Ryan's gin pushed out of a movie for the, but not really nefariously because he has his own gin. But look, you can get mad at Paulie, but he has got a movie to promote. I can't knock him. That's loyalty. That's what you do.
Then there was Paul Feig. Now, Paul at least tried. He actually said something nice about Blake, calling her a great collaborator, talented, professional, all the usual PR fluff. But let's be real. He wasn't doing this because he genuinely wanted to support her. He was doing it because he had a movie to sell.
I'm getting more and more frustrated by this guy. If you don't want to talk about it, just say don't want to talk about it. Say, look, it turns out things are just a lot more complicated and sensitive than I realized, and I just don't want to engage.
Hollywood doesn't run on personal loyalty. It runs on financial survival. And Paul Feig had a project tied to Blake Lively that still needed to make money. That meant he couldn't afford to fully distance himself. But was he out there fighting for her? Passionately defending her? Making sure the world knew he was on her side? Not a chance. He did the bare minimum, just enough to protect his own interests, but not enough to get dragged down with her. This wasn't support. This was damage control. And this is how Hollywood handles an actress they've lost faith in. They don't attack her outright. They don't trash her in public. They just start talking in vague, careful statements, stepping away quietly until eventually there's no one left standing beside her.
That Ryan Reynolds would like to go back to any point in time, it's to when he was staring and staring and staring at a stranger feeding her baby.
Blake wasn't just losing Hollywood executives. She was losing the people who had actually worked with her. The people who had seen her behind the scenes, interacted with her daily, and were now making it clear. They wanted out. In short, no one was buying what they were selling. Instead of looking like a confident, self-aware couple rising above the noise, they looked desperate. This wasn't a power move. This was a PR stunt gone horribly wrong.
Look, I liked Conan last night. That was probably the worst joke of the night. Speaking of the Oscars, Deadpool didn't really show up, but Brandon Sklenar did show up. I'm learning how to do it. I'm going to call him Blandon because I watched this whole thing and he's just, dude, you need some new stories. You need to show a little bit more excitement. You are boring as heck.
Colin Jost's joke didn't just humiliate them, it exposed them. And when it blew up online, when 3.5 million people watched it in a day, Ryan and Blake realized too late that they had just made the biggest mistake of their careers. Hollywood was already pulling away. The PR stunts weren't working. The industry was done pretending. And Ryan? For the first time in his career, he couldn't joke his way out of it. So, what happens next is just a matter of time, but one thing's for sure. This mess isn't over yet. If you want to stay updated on every twist, turn, and Hollywood meltdown, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and stick around. Because this is getting wilder by the minute.